Tune in for the offline tour. Like and subscribe some more. With Jackson, Brian, and Ram, the Savage, me talk about GZ Sports. Tune in for the offline tour. Like and subscribe some more. With Jackson, Brian, and Ram, the Savage, me talk about GZ Sports. Yeah, check out the station. Feel like a sports education. The best news I come from GZ Sports.
It was a sad time at the ending of the previous year as football, or as Americans say, soccer, lost one of the greats to ever play the game. Pele, the Brazilian legend, died in hospital at 82. 3 World Cups, over 1,000 goals credited. First thoughts to Sav. How has Pele revolutionized? What was your first thought when you heard the news?
Okay, so the day I remember it very clearly. I was there just on my phone, on Twitter. Twitter was down for some reason. It was very laggy. I'm like, okay, what's up? I should have gotten the first hint there. Then I went on some of my friends' WhatsApp statuses, Instagram reels, TikTok, and then I saw the king has died, and I'm like, oh crap. They mean Messi, because like that was my initial reaction, because I didn't remember that Pele was called Ore, aka the king. When I saw Pele died, I was like, what? That was my initial reaction. I was just stunned. I was flabbergasted. I was just shocked into just silence when I heard the initial news. Pele Eduardo Arantes de Nascimento has died at the age of 82 years old with complications relating from a multitude of illnesses, more prominently the one called cancer. It was very shocking to me. I'm not going to lie. I kind of knew it was going to happen sooner or later, especially considering that he had cancer, and cancer for people that age is normally fatal, but you just don't expect it. You know, you don't expect it to happen to someone so big, whose name is so big, you know? Like, we always say we're all human, even the greats are human too, and they have to die, but you're just not expecting it, you know? That was my initial reaction. One felt with a little bit of sadness, a little bit of hurt, a little bit of shock. That was it for me.
Yeah, I mean, I got the news a bit later than you. I think about 20 minutes after, because I wasn't near any internet to be able to know it. I didn't get any calls or anything. But when I got the news, I wrote that my first thought after I got the news was I hate Croatia, because I just had a feeling that if Brazil had beaten Croatia, if Croatia had understood that this was going to be, we all thought that this was going to be his last year, after they said that he got into more complications after chemotherapy. I was saying this might be it. I thought that if, after Neymar scored, I thought Croatia would just accept defeat. Not really just accept it, just lie down and take it, but, play a good game, but still know they can't win. But they, after they beat Brazil, I just said, that's it. I don't think Pele will ever see Brazil win another World Cup. And so said it happened. Pele the player, Pele the man. Pele is the reason many people watch football. I mean, if you can go back to as young as you were when you were watching shows on TV, and when it comes to sports, you always hear, there's always that one American saying, I'm gonna go watch Pele, because he was the one who brought everyone into the sport. He revolutionized it. If you see the skills that are done today, there was a tweet going around, Pele did it first, and he for sure did. I don't know where to start when it comes to his play career. I mean, he started at 14 playing futsal until he was scouted by Santos, and they're taking it as hard as possible. I mean, he scored over 600 goals for them. He still has the record for most goals for Santos when he was there. From he was there at 15. Could have moved to Europe, however, the Brazilian government declared him a national treasure, so he was unable to actually leave the country, which is how valuable they thought Pele was, how valuable they knew he was to the team, how good he actually was in Santos colours, and they didn't want to lose him to a European team. I mean, do you any comments with his in his early time? Not saying his time in New York or anything, we're not there yet, or international, but when he was at Santos in the early days.
The most frequent memory that comes to mind when we talk about his early days at Santos was just how this kid was doing it all. He was quick, he was strong, he had a little bit of flair about him. As he said, every skill that we see the best players do now, more than likely Pele did it first in his time. It's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy. But when you think about how much this man has achieved for a Brazilian club such as Santos, at the time the Brazilian league was indeed arguably one of the better leagues in the world. As he said, over 600 goals. Santos claims it's over 1,000, but official FIFA records say 600 plus, which still is a mammoth, don't get me wrong. The thing that set Pele above the rest when he started at Santos, I think it has to be his origin story. He originally came from the streets of futsal, as he said, scouted by Santos, but he didn't originally start at the academy, or the so-called academy, I should say. He cleaned boots. He cleaned boots to earn his keep, and he would juggle balls on the sideline. Manager saw him, gave him a chance, and the rest, as you know, is history. I think Pele set himself above the rest with just his presence. Similar to a Led Yashin, he revolutionized the game in the sense that defenders had to try every single means and ways to stop him. Right? And it honestly is a big loss. I understand why Santos are taking it so hard. They're losing the best legend the club has ever seen. Right? A player who made your club what it is today. It's just not easy. It's generally just not easy.
Yeah, it isn't, and his goal scoring ability, that was like a cut above the rest of anybody in his generation. I mean, Pele hasn't played in Brazil since like the late 1960s, and he still has the record for the most goals in the Campeonato Paulista. He scored 58 goals in one season. I mean, he was banging them in, and I think he was still a kid at that point. He scored 77 goals for Brazil. He's joint top with Neymar. I mean, Neymar's done it in about 100 games more. That just shows how good Pele was, because to play like that in international football, we know international football is a much different game to club football, and to continuously do it like that, it showed how good he was. I mean, in the World Cups, remember when he was 17, he scored in the final. I think he scored a brace or a hat-trick in the final. Most memorably, that flick over the defender. I think they spoke to him and he said that. Yeah, and they spoke to him and he said that he felt like applauding, but then he remembered he was not on Pele's team, so he couldn't applaud him. He had to just watch, because it was that good a goal. In 62 they repeated, and in 66, the defenders said there was only one way to stop this guy, and it was just through pure injury, and they just kept fouling him. That at that point, subs weren't even allowed, so you either had to play with 10 men or play with an injured guy, and that's what Brazil had to do. They were out in the group stages of 66 because you damaged your jewel, so you can't really prosper. He decided he was gonna retire because there was no protection, there was no help or anything. He felt he was a sheep thrown out to the wolves at that point. And then in 1970 we know how good that World Cup was. We really know how good that World Cup was. Pele, Carlos Alberto, Jairzinho, Tostao, Rivellino. It was a magnificent team. It was fantastic, and they went on to win the lot. Pele scored the 100th goal of Brazil's in the World Cup for Brazil, and set up Carlos Alberto for that fourth. We all remember that fourth goal. It was a brilliant team goal. What's been your most memorable Pele moment in regards to his international career?
The most iconic Pele moment in me is indeed that picture. We've all seen the picture, Pele jumping up in the arms of, I don't remember who it is, but he has the biggest smile on his face, his hand above his head. You know which one I'm talking, right?
I know exactly the picture.
Exactly, that picture, that is the best. That moment is the most iconic moment of his career, in my opinion. You can see the pure joy, you can see the pure bliss in his face in that moment, and it was captured in color, I believe. Absolutely stunning, that moment in his career. I believe that's when they won the World Cup, or that's when he scored the World Cup winning goal.
Yeah, I mean, and there was an interesting stat. Sorry to cut you, but there was an interesting stat as well, that Brazil never lost a single game when Pele and Garrincha played together, and that's fantastic. That is stupendous. That's brilliant. You know, the guy with two left knees and the one who can finish like there's no tomorrow. It's wonderful when you feel a team like that and you're down 3-0. You just know you're not going to lose because it's never happened before. These two don't know how to lose together.
Exactly. The Garrincha and Pele is the Messi and Neymar of today, right? I don't want to compare it. I really don't want to compare them at this point, right? Because they were both the top duo in their own era. You get me? In terms of teammates. Garrincha had that little bit of thing about him, that little bit of flair, that darting pace, right? The guy with two left feet that could dribble with two left feet, you know. And then you had Pele, the clinical one, the finisher, the one that can make it happen, the magician in his own right, the king of football. And honestly, what a sight it would have been to behold. What a sight it would have been for us to see now. If we could go back in time and look at those moments, I can almost guarantee that we'll be looking at these moments in absolute sheer bliss. Me and you both, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, Pele, what else can be said? He went to America when it wasn't called the MLS at the time. It was called, I think it was the North American Soccer League, and he went there because no one else was there. And when he played at 37 years old, he drew out crowds that no one has ever seen. Not even in their main sport, the NFL. Not even there did they see crowds like that. And then after that, the league developed. You know, Franz Beckenbauer came over. We know that later David Beckham did, etc., etc. But he paved that way. You know, he won a trophy in New York. People thought he was going to come out of retirement again for Brazil, but he didn't this time. You know, he stayed put, and that was even at 37. I think if he came out of retirement at that point and decided he wanted to be at the next World Cup, then we would have seen Pele versus Maradona, but we were unable to see that. It would have been brilliant, but we didn't see it. Yeah, that was the one Maradona won his first World Cup as well, so that would have been a real good showdown. He's played, I think I have the stats here, 1,363 appearances in 21 years. He's been credited, official, but he's been credited with 1,281 goals. Whether that is all official or not, that's still that is what people think Erling Haaland can do. That is what they think he can do, and oh my word.
Honestly, like, it's amazing. Like, even if they're not all in official games, to score that many